So I ended up working 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet. I worked multiple part-time and full-time attorney jobs for free. And after finishing and working as a full-time attorney, I would then drive for Uber and Lyft from 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. every day, sleep for 3 hours, and then go back to work to being an attorney, because paid attorney jobs were scarcity back then. There were big law firms closing down. You really had to either just take in your 200,000 in law school loans, change professions, and just count it as a loss, or you had to stick it through and work and hustle and do 2 and 3 jobs for free to build up your resume and career. And so that's what I did for 8, 9 years of my life. And it came to a point where I realized, shit, life shouldn't be this hard. Like, I have a very good education. I'm very, very fortunate, but yet life is super hard. But forget about me, what about other people? And that's when my eyes started opening and realizing, holy shit, like, life isn't all hunky-dory as it seems to be and what the media paints it to be, or what our politicians do with sending out their mailers saying, re-elect me, and I've done this and this for our community, our communities are safe and life is good. But they're really painting a false picture for all of us and brainwashing us to think that everything is okay when it's not. So for a district like ours, and my eyes actually started opening in 2018, more recently, as I was hustling and bustling, going through the daily grind of life, trying to make my own ends meet. And so I didn't have the time to be civically engaged and politically engaged and to know what was important or what was not important or who to vote for. But it wasn't until 2018, I missed the whole 2016 Bernie revolution period, unfortunately. But 2018, I met a young guy named Kenneth Mejia. He was running for U.S. Congress in our district for the same position that I'm currently running for. And he ran as a Green Party member. And I received a text message from one of his text banking campaigns. And it said, "We are fighting to for Medicare for all, for affordable housing, for abolishing ICE, for this, this, and this, for the Green New Deal." And it was just, I something hit me, and I went to his website, read about who he was, what he was fighting for, his history, his campaign, and it was like, yes, these are the type of people that we need to be electing into office, the people who really care, the people who are already doing the work in our communities, on doing the groundwork every day. And so I ended up helping out Kenneth on his campaign, ended up being one of his core campaign team members. He asked me to switch to Green Party registration. I even did that because to me, party doesn't really mean much, because as you can see, our two-party system is corrupt anyway. And so for me, that wasn't a problem because I really believed in Kenneth, his vision, and the campaign that he was fighting for. And unfortunately, he ended up not winning. But he did perform really well. There are less than 1% registered as Green Party members in our district, yet he managed to win a total 28% of the general vote last general election. And that shows you that a third of our voters, a majority of them being Democrat, chose to vote for another party candidate because they didn't trust their own candidate, because nothing is happening in our district. We have parts of our district having per capita incomes of $12,000 to $15,000, with the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in those same areas being $2,000 a month. How in the world do people live? And they can't. That's why we have a couple and few families living in one-bedroom apartments together. That's why we have masses of people working multiple jobs to make ends meet. That's why people continue to purchase more debt to live. And when our people continue to wake up every morning with this daily deep-rooted anxiety and fear and chronic economic just paralysis about what to do or how to pay rent, what are we doing for our people? Why are you giving lip service to our people? That's bullshit. Those are lies. And so our campaign is really fighting for the financial freedom, love, and justice for all people. And so financial freedom looks like talking about student debt, talking about the 35-plus-year wage stagnation that we're in, the ever-increasing widening wealth gap. It means talking about all of these different things that we could actually be helping our people, providing a universal basic income. And that's something that I saw that was lacking amongst a lot of campaigns and the congressional candidates that were running in our district. And fortunately, I had the great privilege of running alongside amazing primary challengers. But eventually, I think that people voted, and we ended up cleaning that strong second. But our campaign is where I think our campaign is finally making that stance and saying enough is enough. We as the people need to step up, take our power back, because no one else can take our power unless we let them. And so now is the time to educate the people about what's going on, about how much lip service is being done. Why hasn't Medicare for All passed? Because your congressman accepts money from Big Pharma. Why hasn't there been free public college? Because your congressman accepts money from student debt collectors. Why hasn't there been big change and reform in police? Why isn't he even standing for defunding the police? Because police union PACs and private prison PACs donate to your congressman, and yet he has the boldness to stand at police protests and say that he's fighting for the people. And it's our time and our opportunity to wake up as the people and realize, oh shit, like our elected officials are blatantly lying to us in our faces, and we haven't caught on to that yet. And so I think what Jen's campaign is about, what my campaign is about, what Donna's campaign is about exposing that and saying, hey guys, like, you're not really doing a good thing by re-electing the same people, because that's where we continue to go downward. And so our campaign is really about making big, bold changes, passing a homes guarantee, passing universal basic income, Medicare for all, a Green New Deal.
Really, my real interest was direct out of law school was I was doing criminal defense. And so a huge part for me when we talk about things like justice, really criminal justice, this whole analysis now of police brutality. And I'm so thankful that more people are catching on to this, because this has been something that I've been talking about since, I don't know, before law school. So criminal justice the system is biased and white supremacist at every single level of the system. It isn't just in policing. Policing is just where we tend to see it the most. That's the most visible form that we see, because it's physical and it's in your face. But from arrest all the way to being a returning citizen with a felony conviction, the way that our system operates is one based on racism and white supremacy. It is also sickening that it is a for-profit system. And that, to me, is one of the key things about our criminal justice system among healthcare and public education, is we have to remove the profit motive from those industries. I am not a socialist. I'm a capitalist. I have no problem with people making money, but there are certain essential societal functions that need to be taken off the for-profit market, because we just can't have that. And we see it in healthcare. And what happens is small, group of people take the money and siphon it out of our public system, whether it's to charter schools, whether it's to insurance companies, whether it's to prison companies, contractors, whatever. And it keeps us in this horrible loop. And yeah, the problem is all of those people have paid for our congressional representatives to essentially be on their payrolls. And so when David's talking about a representative going to a Black Lives Matter march, but yet they take the second large amount of money from police PACs of any Democrat in the House. That's my congresswoman. And yes, it's infuriating to watch her go to talk about justice and police brutality when she is on the payroll of the Fraternal Order of Police. It is infuriating to watch her talk about things that having to do with labor. And she actually gets the labor endorsement. And she gets it not because she's better on labor, but because of politics and connections and cronyism. And so she will sit there and talk about helping labor, but she doesn't support Medicare for all. She doesn't support a universal basic income. She doesn't even support a $15 minimum wage. So the fact that is who is representing labor, I just want to say, when we talk about third parties, I think it's important to recognize that right now we don't even have two, because we have no labor party in this country, and we haven't had a labor party in this country since probably the 80s. And that is what is wrong with this country. And that is why it has gotten where it is, because we don't have two. We have two corporate wings of the same bird, and it is not getting us anywhere. So, I would just say, before we even have to worry about a third party, we should consider a second. So that's, we're about labor, we're about justice, we're about, the least among us. And I just think that we need to all understand the importance of the collective, because we truly can only be as great as we treat the most oppressed people among us. We really can't. So I'm not proud to be an American right now. There is nothing remotely to take pride in right now. I don't understand how anybody could be defending how we treat people in this country. across the board. So, I mean, that's what my campaign is about. It is about fighting for those people that have been ignored since the corporations bought our government.
I am largely a huge champion of universal basic income. And the reason is I see poverty just crippling my communities all across Tennessee, and every problem that stems from that via no jobs, no education, lack of healthcare, et cetera, all come from just the tip of poverty. So I want to address that as a whole for everybody, improve the quality of life for our entire society to be happy, healthy, and financially secure.
First question from the audience. Do you have a VP pick?
Yeah, Andrew Yang. That seems like I know that if Biden is the nominee, that he was wanting to have a VP as a woman.
Mhm.
And that fact, I would say maybe Evelyn Yang, if he's dead set. I love to have some women, and we have some great women leaders, to be honest. We really do. But at this point in time, I just think Andrew Yang was so right about so many things that we're facing right now. And if we had preemptively taken these actions, we'd be in such a better place. And the route we're going down, we really need his help. And I would love to see him as a VP.
Hi, everybody. My name is Donna Hyman, and I'm running for U.S. Congress in Texas's 31st District. This is northwest of Austin's suburbs, goes all the way up to Killeen, which has the largest armored vehicle military base in the entire country. And this race is one of the 6 targeted races, red to blue, in Texas. It's so close to flipping blue, just 8,000 votes or 2.9%. So our campaign started with 12 people in the race. And then on March 3rd, Super Tuesday, Texas had its primary. And our primary is along with the presidential primary. And in Texas, if you don't get 50% of the vote, the top 2 candidates go into a runoff election. So we are right in the middle of our early voting starting tomorrow for this runoff election. That's where we are. There were 6 people on the ballot in the primary, 5 people running, and our campaign advanced to this runoff election. And the most interesting thing about our district is that we have 2 counties, Williamson County and Bell County. And in 2018, Williamson County went blue, and Bell County is where the work needs to be done. And we need to close a gap, a tiny gap of 2.9%, just 8,000 votes. And on March 3rd, our campaign won Bell County. So we are going into this runoff in a very strong position. If we win this runoff, we are in the strongest position to flip this district. And really, our campaign has been able to do that by reaching out to the majority Black Americans, Asian Americans, Latino, and Hispanic Americans that make up the majority of the population in Bell County. So that's what this race is all about. And it's really interesting to see David and Jen talk about economic issues, because in our district, Williamson County is considered affluent. We have a lot of major tech companies up here like Dell Technologies, Amazon, Google, and Apple. Yet for every single person who has a high wage 6-figure job, there are 3 people that are struggling to put food on the table, that have no health insurance or no health coverage, are unable to go see a doctor. They're unable to pay their mortgage. They live in constant economic anxiety. And when you go to Bell County, it's primarily a veterans and service member community, because as I mentioned, we have the largest armored vehicle military base up there. So unless you are part of the military in a high ranking position there, your income opportunities are less than $10 an hour service jobs. And a lot of these people in Bell County drive 1 hour or longer one way to get a job in Austin, Texas, because it's neighboring Austin. Yet they completely are unable to live in Austin because they cannot afford to live here. So they have to commute over 2 hours daily just to be able to make a living. So this is what our campaign is all about. We are endorsed by every single labor union, including statewide Texas AFL-CIO, which takes 2/3 of the vote in order to get that endorsement, representing hundreds of thousand union members. We are the campaign of people who work for a living and working class Americans. And our biggest challenge right now is getting our message to the voter. So what we could really use help with is phone banking. If you are able to make 20 calls today, tomorrow through July 14th, which is the election day for our runoff, we would love to have your support. Just reach out to us at contact@votefordonna.com. with your email address and your mobile number, and we will get you in touch, put you in one of our phone banks, and all we need to do is get our message out. And I'll tell you why. Every time we put our message in front of the voter, we win. People say, this makes complete sense to us. What you are standing for, what you're trying to do is what we need in this district. So we just need to get our message out to voters, and that's where we could use your help. And as I mentioned, early voting starts tomorrow, so this is crunch time for our campaign.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you, Donna. It's a very exciting next 24 hours for you. And I also know that you may have to jump in about 10, 15 minutes from this call. So let me ask you the next question. Tell us a little bit, and I'll ask the same to David and Jen. For those who don't know your bios, could you share a little bit about your background, your life's kind of perspective and your experiences and what you think you're going to bring to the Congress that kind of represents, a unique perspective that only you have, that maybe other folks in your race don't bring?
Yeah, so I'm an electrical and computer engineer, and I have an 18-year career in technology. But about 6 years ago, I joined a nonprofit. We built it up to a 4,000 plus member nonprofit. We raised tens of thousands of dollars for it. And this nonprofit provides free training and education for anybody who wants it. And it was during this time that I came to the realization, when I watched, working Texans firsthand struggle to survive and just meet their basic needs, I realized that we need to do more, and we have major systemic challenges in our country that need to be solved. And as an engineer, I have worked on products that are used by millions of people around the world. Microcontrollers that I've worked on are found in everything from a washing machine to a jet airplane. One of the things that I'm uniquely trained to do is to scale large systems that work for every single person. So I'll give you an example. For example, when we started getting cellular phones in people's hands, initially we had some people who had phones, and then soon after that, almost every single person in the United States, all 327 million people, have a mobile phone. Some people have two. And on a day-to-day basis, everyone is able to have conversations successfully. And the reason we're able to do that is we have scaled the infrastructure needed to be able to do that in a comfortable way, where 90% of the time, doesn't matter where you are, you're going to be able to have a conversation, whether it's domestic or even international. And this is a unique perspective that can be applied to our healthcare system specifically. So one of the things that I talk about is I'm a huge advocate for single-payer healthcare for all, or Medicare for all. But I point out that unless we scale our healthcare infrastructure, just Medicare for all or Medicare for all alone is not going to be able to bring high quality healthcare coverage to the 80 million plus people who do not have the ability to go see a doctor, whether they have insurance or not. And let me explain to you why. Our country has a huge lack of primary care physicians, nurses, and doctors, and facilities to take care of people at the preventative level, meaning when you get sick, you're able to go see a doctor. So we use ER as our first line of defense. And unless we lower the cost of healthcare for every single person in this country, no way, there's going to be no solution for healthcare. It doesn't matter how you want to solve it. We have to lower the cost of healthcare first. And the way we do that is we increase the number of primary care physicians and facilities that you can go to, so people have constant healthcare coverage, and they are not letting their healthcare challenges progress into a point where they have to be hospitalized all the time. And this has been brought to the surface in a very stark way because of COVID-19. We now see, for example, we saw this in New York City, where there wasn't enough hospital capacity and they had to put up tents in Central Park. And over the last 7 days, we are now seeing this in Texas. For example, in Houston, the hospitals are now at capacity. They do not have enough capacity to put in people who need to be hospitalized for the coronavirus. So scaling the healthcare infrastructure applies here as well, in terms of having enough PPE, having enough ventilators, having enough hospital beds, and planning for that. It also applies to testing, for example. If we had ramped up testing at a very successful rate early on in March and April, when we were observing a shutdown, and we were doing this to essential workers repeatedly, we could have killed this coronavirus much, much quicker. So it applies to testing, it applies to contact tracing, being able to know who was where, when. And finally, it applies to the fact that we need to be able to actually accommodate the challenges that we have in our healthcare system by ensuring that people have enough PPE early on. So in March, when doctors were trying to handle all these cases in New York City specifically, they were having challenges getting hold of PPE. And when they opened up boxes of PPE, they found many of it with mold in it because nobody was paying attention to the first in, first out, and a way of looking at inventory. So these are the things that I mean by scaling the healthcare infrastructure. And as an engineer, I am uniquely not disqualified to solve these challenges, but I've led a $37 billion product line. I have a huge breadth in financials and how to reduce the cost of products and services. And I think these would be very unique to our Congress. And the last thing I will say is this: look at who is doing contact tracing. It's the tech companies. And Congress needs to understand that when Google and Apple and these kind of companies are involved with our private information, that the privacy of American citizens is extremely important. And this is where an engineer can have this in-depth conversation with tech companies and hold them accountable, knowing what are the underlying factors in keeping Americans' information private and secure. So that's kind of a little bit about my background and how it could apply to Congress.
Thank you so much, Donna. And I hope we can get you back on the show in the future. And if you have to jump now, feel free. If you can stay around a little longer, you're welcome to stay as long as you like.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on. As you know, I'm also trying to call voters myself, and every single second counts. So thank you for having me. And I hope to join you if we win this runoff. And hopefully we will win this runoff, and I'll be back with you guys.
Sounds good. Donna, we'll have to get you an early goodbye nerds from you. Can you give us a bye nerds?
Bye nerds.
Love it.